Hi, this is JP Morgan. Today on the Slanted Lens, we're here on the Idaho side of the Grand Tetons. Those are the Grand Tetons. It was cloudy when we came up here and scouted our location. They looked like they were going to be a whole lot closer than they actually are. But our goal here today is to show you how to take time lapse from day into those stars at night. We're going to do that probably my favorite way to do it, and that is blending 3 time lapses together. We're going to do a time lapse as the sun goes down. We're going to time lapse as you go into that transitional kind of sun's down, but the light is very luminous. And then we're going to do one with stars. We'll blend those 3 together in post. We'll show you how to do that. So let's get started and see what we can do. Before you watch this lesson, get over to theslanted.com where you can win one of these spider holster single camera systems. Fabulous way to carry your camera. Get to theslanted.com and sign up. Hey, I'm back from Idaho. Picked up a bag of potatoes on my way. Who buys potatoes in Idaho anyway? Just about everybody who lives there, I guess. It was freezing cold out there trying to do that time lapse on the Idaho side of the Tetons. But I'm going to sit down now and break down exactly what happened. I had my son-in-law, Dallin, doing all the BTS. So we were scrambling between the two of us trying to make it all happen. Got a little crazy. So let's break down exactly what happened doing our time lapse from day to night. So we set up 3 cameras to show us how to do day to night for time lapse. The reason I set up 3 cameras was I wanted to show 3 different ways to do that day to night time lapse. To trigger my cameras today, I'm using my Syrup Genie and my Syrup Genie Mini, and I'm also putting my Time-lapse in there to do the 3rd camera. The first camera is stationary, and it's going to use Aperture Priority through the entire exposure from day to night. I'm not going to change or touch anything. So here's how I'm going to set it up. I'm going to set it at 2500 ISO. The problem with this is that when you start in the daytime, that can be pretty hard to get a good exposure at f4. But I want to be able to get a shutter speed fast enough to be able to accommodate that, and I can in this situation. So I've got 2500 ISO, I've got f4 on Aperture Priority, I've got a 20-second interval between exposures. So now I can start in the beginning and it's going to be shooting at like 3,000th of a second, 4,000th of a second for shutter, but as it goes into night, it's going to get into 2 seconds and 4 seconds and 6 seconds. That's why I need that 20-second interval, because it's got to give me the ability to go into night and not clip the shutter so I can shoot into those long star shots at nighttime. So there's our first setup. Lock down, turn it on, let it rock and roll, and it's going to give us our time lapse from day to night. This is not my favorite way to do these. Obviously on all of these we're going to have to deflicker them because we're using auto white balance and we're using aperture preferred, which means the shutter is trying to find an exposure, and occasionally it's going to be a third off. It's going to happen all the way through. The reason I really don't like this method is because as it gets darker and darker, the meter is really fooled by the darkness and it starts to have a problem finding our exposure. But they're not terrible, and I use this a lot of times as my backup time lapse. If I got 2 or 3 cameras going, I'll set this one up and get it rolling. It'll give me a nice day to night, and I know I've got some consistency there. It's going to roll through and give me at least something. So there's my first one. Camera number 2 is set up the way I like to shoot time lapse when you're going from day to night. First off, I'm going to combine an Aperture Priority piece of time lapse that goes from daytime into dusk. I'm going to combine that with a manual time lapse that I'm going to shoot after it starts to get dark. The Aperture Preferred setting, I don't have to have a 2500 ISO. I can back my ISO way back to 600 or 300, even 160 if I want to. I'm Aperture Preferred, f4, 2-second intervals, and then I'm just going to let my shutter take my exposures until it gets longer and longer. As soon as that shutter hits about 2 seconds or 1.5 seconds, I'm now going to turn that time lapse off. I've shot that long enough into that dusk time, because that's usually about the time it gets far and deep enough in. I'm now going to switch to my manual nighttime camera settings. My manual camera settings, which are auto white balance, ISO 2500, the aperture is set at f4, and the shutter is set at 20 seconds. And the interval on our Genie Mini is going to be set at 22 seconds. You can shoot this star section to be as long as you want it to be. 24 frames equals 1 second. And your Genie Mini is going to tell you, if you say I want 48 seconds, it's going to tell you how long you've got to shoot. That's one of the nice things it does for you. So you can know that you got that 20-second interval, which means it takes a long time. You're only getting about 3 exposures a minute with 22-second intervals. So it takes a long time to get 48 seconds or long. So you're out there sitting there a long time. Actually, Dallin and I got a little impatient. We're freezing to death. We didn't shoot them as long as we should have. And you'll notice that in the samples. But anyway, camera number 3 incorporates the way I like to shoot time-lapse. That's that Aperture Priority into dark, and then my manual settings in the dark for doing the stars. But I'm going to add to it a move with my Syrup Genie. I'm going to put my syrup and just let it sweep across that horizon. So I've got a 70 to 200 millimeter lens on my camera. I'm at about 135 millimeters, so I don't have to have a huge move to be able to have a nice little move across those Tetons. It's about 11 degrees. I set it up, I preview it, I like it. I now move it back to the beginning point and I start it on the first Aperture Priority pass. I'm going to make 3 passes. I'm going to let that Genie pass the first time at Aperture Priority. That's going to take me about 30 minutes. So I'm going to start about 30 minutes before sunset. I take that pass, it's every 2 seconds. It can be as low as 160 ISO. I've got a shutter speed that's going to fluctuate because I'm on Aperture Priority and I'm on auto white balance. That's my first pass. Now I'm going to reset that back. It's now at the point where it's starting to get pretty dark. It's in that dusky time, but it's not super dark yet. I'm going to go to just a little longer interval. I'm going to extend that to maybe 4 seconds. But now the exposures get longer, still on auto white balance, and I shoot through 1 more pass. That's my second pass. Now it's dark, and at this point I simply put it back to the beginning point once again. I go to my manual star settings and I shoot 1 more pass with the manual star settings. Let's talk about this post process. First off, I'm going to use my Datacolor Spider 5 Pro and I'm going to calibrate my monitor so I know the images are looking the way I want them to look. After I've done that, I'm now ready to take my images. So let's talk about my first camera, the one that I shot all on Aperture Priority. I'm going to take all those into Camera Raw. I'm going to correct the first one and I'm going to sync them all. I'll then quickly check the last few that are in dark and just see if that color holds through. I may make some adjustments to make sure that that color is going to hold from beginning to end and look good, and then I'm going to export them all as JPEGs. That we can bring into Premiere as an image sequence, put it on our timeline, and there's our time lapse. So here's our time lapse for day to night using the Aperture Priority all the way through. Number 2, I'll do the exact same thing. I bring the first sequence into Camera Raw, I process the images with the color that I like, then I bring the second sequence in and I process those with the color that I like there. I'm going to look at that color just to make sure that it's pretty close because the ending of one is going to bleed into the beginning of the next. I want to make sure that that color looks good together, or at least will cross dissolve together. It can change color a little bit, that's fine because we're doing a dissolve on the timeline. Bring those 2 image sequences into Premiere. We stack one on top of the other and a nice long dissolve between the 2 when we have our beginning to the end. So let's take a look at this sample. Camera 3 is going to use the very same process that Camera 2 did, except we're going to incorporate our move. What happens is we take each of these moves, the 3 moves in, and create image sequences for each one of them. We now are going to stack these in Premiere. The trick is going to be we've got to line them up so that there isn't this ghosting look of the Tetons as one goes to the next. It's got to lay right on top of each other so we seamlessly go from the beginning to the middle to the end. So here's our example blending those 3 different image sequences. You'll see at the very end of it though, got a bunch of flashing lights in it. It was a truck that pulled up. Some guy in Idaho going, "What are you guys doing out here?" Which is a pretty legitimate question at 1 in the morning on some dude's farm. He was very nice though, and off we went. So I love doing this and I want to do more of it. I want to get better at doing these day to night experiences and refine this experience. If you're shooting your own, get out there and shoot them and put them up on our Facebook group. Let us take a look at them. We want to see your time lapse in our Facebook group. Join the Facebook group on the Slanted Lens Facebook page where you can share your content, the images and the time lapse and the things that you're doing. We can take a look as a community and help each other grow there. So I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. Keep those cameras rolling and keep on clicking. We've got our first workshop coming on April 30th here in Los Angeles. We're going to teach you how to shoot on location in anything from direct sun and harsh light to very soft and filled light. Joins you to end up our day with some fabulous editing tips that will help take those images and really set them apart. Go to theslantedlens.com and sign up today. It's a very limited group, so you better get over there. Subscribe to the Slanted Lens or tonight you're going to have nightmares about me juggling potatoes. You better subscribe.